Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for June 21st through 27th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 4 shows, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 2 books. First I finished Gears for Queers, which is a narrative non-fiction account of this couple biking through Europe. It was great. The perspectives switched back and forth between the 2 authors, Abigail Melton and Lilith Cooper, and you got to see how they were coping with this very stressful yet it's supposed to be fun event. What I really loved about this book is they didn't hold anything back. You got to see all of the different mishaps that happened. You got to know all of their feelings about each other and what was happening to them on the trail. Abby is plus size, so often she would see people checking her out and being like, you're not the type of person that should be on this athletic type of tour. Whereas Lil is non-binary and had to face being gendered every time they went in for supplies. This romantic couple also has their own mental health issues on both sides, so you got to see them work through that, and it was just such a vulnerable experience. It also made me really want to travel, which is a shame because obviously I can't right now. But honestly, it doesn't take much. I see anybody else has taken a trip and I want to take a trip too. Next I read The Forgotten Girl by India Hill Brown. This is a middle grade horror novel and I very much enjoyed it. I also had already taken it out of my library on the recommendations of several different people before I realized that I've followed India on BookTube for years and was actually thinking the other day that I hadn't seen one of her videos recently and then realized that she was now a novelist. Which I think I vaguely knew was going to happen, but I follow a lot of people online, so it hadn't really clicked. Our protagonist is a middle school black girl in a fairly small town that has a population that is predominantly white. She's forced to do another history of the town project and she doesn't want to do any of the projects they've been doing since the 2nd grade, and she stumbles upon some history that not a lot of people in the town know about. That history ties up with the paranormal aspect of this book and it was just done so well. I haven't read a lot of middle grade horror and I really like it. This book was out there talking about microaggressions and segregated graveyards in the United States, and it just felt so important, and this story just flowed really well. Next I read a NetGalley arc of Cinderella is Dead, which comes out in about a week and a half. What you need to know about this book, and what I knew about this book going into it, is it takes place about 200 years after Cinderella has died, and the patriarchy has completely taken over the kingdom that she used to be a ruler of, and some bad things are going down. This book follows our queer protagonist Sophia as she tries to figure out a way to escape the kingdom with her girlfriend, who doesn't want to go up against the status quo. She just wants to stay as safe as possible. An opportunity arises to hide in plain view in their town, and she's going to have to figure out if she's going to take that or if she is going to run away. Obviously, I'm all here for queer brown girls destroying the patriarchy, so if that's what you're looking for in a book, this is the one to pick up. On to what I watched this week. In preparation of Canada's Drag Race coming out very, very soon, I got access to my best friend's Crave account and then watched the 12th season of RuPaul's Drag Race. Because it's not available on Netflix yet, but it is on Crave. This season felt like it was completely star-studded from the beginning to the end. I really enjoyed all of the queens in this season. Obviously, there was a reason why there were only 3 queens at the end and not 4, which is, wow. The show itself didn't completely address what happened because it had nothing to do with the show, but one of the contestants had a past of catfishing people and it was disgusting to read about when I got my best friend to send me the details because I didn't want to Google anything about season 12 until I'd finished season 12, but I still needed to know what happened. Obviously, this season was also affected by Corona, so the last 2 episodes, the reunion and the finale, were all done remotely, which was really interesting. The person who ended up ultimately winning was my number 3, but you know, it's not up to me, it's up to Mama Ru. I also watched another long-distance episode of Luke Cage. Before we started the episode, Taylor and I were talking about it, and apparently he had done a little bit of research because we were wondering why we were enjoying this season less than we'd enjoyed the first season, and it turns out the majority of the writers up until that point were white. It felt like the focus on the show was really on black crime, which is a very white writing perspective, so that's why things were starting to feel weird, is it was written through these lenses that I don't think it needed to be written through. And then when we watched episode 6, it somehow felt a little bit better, and I was like, I can't quantify why, and it's because it was predominantly written by a person of color. We also discuss how the only communication about wanting to put money back into Harlem comes from the Mariah character, but then that's always challenged with, but yeah, where did that money come from? Instead of, yes, it's great that we want to invest in our own community, which from my understanding is a very important tenet in Black culture. So yeah, that's why this season feels weird. A lot of the writers happen to be white. Megan and I also watched a few more episodes of Scandal. We got to a part where it seemed like a character had died at the end of an episode, and Megan was like, well, there goes about 30% of why I watch the show. And then the character was not dead in the next episode, you know, just kind of hanging on type of thing, and I just had to sit there and not say anything about it because I knew that that character was coming back, and she was very happy, obviously. She spends a fair amount of time mooning over the perpetual 5 o'clock shadow of that character, so I was happy that that character was not leaving us. Chad and I also watched a few more episodes of the 9th season of Walking Dead. There's a whole new big bad, which is just gross. And there's an interesting juxtaposition between this new big bad and the previous big bad kind of still being around but being sort of reformed. I find it really interesting that that person still gets a character arc, because usually in this show, once they get rid of a big bad, it's they've gotten rid of it completely, whereas this is not the case. This week we checked another item off the movies to watch with roommates list, which was The Princess Bride. I hadn't seen it in a while. I always love this movie. It's one of those movies where I feel like the movie is better than the book. Not that saying that the book was bad, but this viewing pleasure is just more enjoyable than reading the book. Then again, I did watch the movie a few times before I read the book, so that probably flavored my enjoyment of it. Either way, it's a fun movie. It's really interesting to go back and look at these sets that are quite clearly sets, but they also look so good. And then the characters and the interactions and all the iconic lines, and it's just a good time. We also watched a movie that was very different than the book. Strangely enough, I had never seen this movie, but I did read the book back in January, I want to say, and that's Howl's Moving Castle. First off, I'd never seen any Studio Ghibli before because I'm a terrible, terrible human being. And what I knew of it is it's kind of weird, and yeah, that holds up. It is very weird. The book and the movie are pretty much two separate things, besides like the central plot line of this girl gets turned into an old woman because of a curse, and then goes and tries to track down this wizard named Howl for help. That's pretty much the only thing that's the same. Am I saying that one is bad and one is good? No, I'm not. This movie was interesting, but I spent a lot of time going, that's not how it happened in the book. On to what I listened to this week, the first book being The Future of Another Timeline. This was a pick for the NB Book Club, and it is very timey-wimey. It is all about time travel. It takes place predominantly in 1992, 1993, and then I think it was 2022, as well as going way back in time just because we can. It's about this group of time travelers who find themselves in an edit war. They keep going back in time to try to further women's rights, but they keep butting up against this other group that is going back in time to take away women's rights. We also run up against this timeline of riot girls in the early 1990s and what some of them are trying to do to make their community more safe, and that was interesting because I just assumed from the start how these stories connected and didn't see the reveal coming, which was very nice. There were also some non-binary characters, and from my understanding the author is also non-binary, which is why I was picked for the NB Book Club. One problem that I had with it, but didn't really have the words for until I heard Audrey talking about it and when we were in Quarantine Pages together, is the fact that the Daughters of Harriet, the group that's going back in time to try to make things better for women and NB folk in the future, doesn't have any men in it. And when a feminist group is framed by only being women and non-binary folk, it does this weird thing, and I'm paraphrasing from Audrey here, where NB folk feel like women light, and that hit us the wrong way. We really wanted to see all genders in that group because ultimately feminism is about all genders. The interesting thing about listening to this as an audiobook is there's a song that is performed in the book that was specifically written and performed in the audiobook, so you get this rock concert in the middle of it, which was kind of cool. And I'm sure Audrey will be much more eloquent about this because they are way more eloquent than I could ever hope to be, so make sure to check out their channel when they talk about this book. The other book I listened to this week was New Kid. This was an adaptation from a graphic novel. I just keep reading those as audiobooks because full cast narration. I love full cast narration. This book is about a middle grade student who has gotten into this prestigious school with the help of financial aid, and it's his first time there, and all of the microaggressions that he faces from classmates and teachers. What I really liked about this adaptation, besides the fact that it was full cast, because I always love that, is you can tell that there are moments that he was just writing in his sketchbook in the graphic novel, because he would call them sketchbook breaks, and that's how he would basically set the scene or give you some background information on different people, and then what he had written in the sketchbook came up later in the plot of the graphic novel and the audiobook, which I found really interesting. This book really went hard about different types of privileges, and I very much enjoyed it, and now I'm going to have to read it in the original format as well. And that's it for this week. With any luck, this will be up before noon, because at noon I will be on a live stream at Pucks and Paperbacks channel, and I'm very much excited for it. A bunch of queer different creators are going to come together for a virtual pride. It's going to be fun. If I don't get the closed captions done, it will be after that. Either way, the link will be down below, so whenever you see this video, you can either join or watch the live stream after it's done. Have you read, watched, or listened to any of these? Let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want me to know that you're here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some of you have asked if there's a way to financially support me during this time, so I recently set up a Ko-fi account. I have that link down below, as well as the link to my Amazon wishlist, as well as the link to my PayPal in case that's your speed. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!